This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm delighted to be joined by Swedish heavyweight Otto Wallin here in Cardiff, of all places. Otto, firstly, it's good to see you since we last spoke. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and good to see you too.
As we said, we're here in Cardiff. I only found out yesterday you was on the card. I think only a couple of days ago you announced it. Where did this fight actually come about? Obviously, you're facing Kamil Sokolowski, who will be very well known to British boxing fans, but where did this fight actually come from?
It came from, I'd known about this date for a while, for at least a month, but it's been a lot of back and forth, so the fight hasn't been locked in, and there was a few other names that was in the mix, and which we accepted and stuff, but that didn't come off. And then I think it was Thursday they told us about this guy. So we accepted him, and Friday got locked in. So I was happy to get that because I haven't fought in a year now. So it'd be good to get a fight. And this is a guy with a bad record, but he's much better than that. And I feel like he's beaten a lot of guys really where he might have been robbed. So I think people that understands him and have seen him, they know that he's a good fighter. And I mean, they're telling me that he's really good. So that's good. I'm ready for it, and I'm happy to be back in the ring and against a solid opponent.
I mean, we had a brief conversation off of camera about Kamil Sokolowski, some of those fights where many felt he was on the wrong end of the decision. The ones which we brought up were the Lucas Brown one and the David Adelaide one. When you heard of him, did you already know about Kamil Sokolowski, Otto, or did you have to look into him a bit more and then you saw, okay, maybe he will be more of a dangerous opponent than what his record would suggest?
Yeah, I had to look into him. I believe I've seen him fight maybe Adelaide or somebody. I think I saw that on TV, but I had to look into him, and I watched his record and had a look at his fights and Joey, of course, also. So before we accept an opponent, we know what we're getting ourselves into. But I feel like it's a good way for me to show that these other guys is not on my level by really putting on a good show here and a good performance.
It could be a banana skin at the same time, Otto, so given what we've just discussed there, does it make you more aware of the dangers he could possess, and because of your ambitions to challenge for world titles once again, you won't want to slip up against a Kamil Sokolowski?
No, I wouldn't want to slip here, and I wouldn't want to slip in any fight. So I think that I'm always serious. I'm taking everybody serious because I really want to get to the big fights, and to do that you can't really afford to slip up with somebody like this. So I'm always very serious, and I'm training always, and I think I have everything I need to beat him.
As we've said and we've spoken about kind of the ability of Kamil Sokolowski, we know he's a fighter who's got very good endurance. He'll keep coming forwards, and you'd imagine give you some tough rounds. For yourself, is there an idea as to how you'd like to break him down? Have you thought about stopping him, or have you thought about, just because it's been about a year since you last fought, the rounds are more important for you? It's only a 6-rounder, but again, just to shake off any ring rust. How do you actually like, or would like, the fight to play out?
Yeah, actually, we've been told it's an 8-rounder, so we gotta make sure of that, because I also seen it was listed as a 6-rounder, but hopefully it's an 8-rounder. That's what we signed up for. So. I think I gotta use what I'm good at. I got a good jab, I got good defense, and he likes the wing shots and stuff, and sometimes be aggressive and sometimes be on the back foot. And I'm taller than him. I gotta use my height, my reach, and if it gets close, I just gotta let some shots go and show him that he doesn't really belong with me. And I think that once I show him why he's here, he'll understand it.
Otto, away from Kamil, provided everything goes to plan for you on Saturday night, moving into the rest of 2022, what do you think will be lined up for you? I asked you this just before the turn of the year when I saw you in New York, and you said that back then you'd like the Martin Ortiz winner, obviously Luis Ortiz being successful in that fight. Is that somebody you still look at away from the whole Dillian Whyte situation which you had ongoing?
Yeah, I think that the Ortiz fight will be good for me. We tried to make it last year. Try to make Charles Martin. We had a contract signed with White when he pulled out. So it's been a little tough to secure those big fights, but we've been trying to make them. And I think the most important for me is to stay busy, to stay relevant, and so that's why it's good I'm fighting again. And if I can't land a big name, I keep taking good fights to keep myself in the mix.
Apart from the world champions and knowing Tyson, AJ, Usyk and Dillian are now all tied up, obviously AJ and Dillian not being world champions, but you know what I mean, they've got their fights coming up. Who would be the most ideal fight for yourself, Otto?
I don't know. I don't really look so much at specific guys. I just wanna fight for the title, and number one is to stay busy, and then fight relevant opponent that will bring me up there. So I don't really care too much who it is. I want to fight for the title, and whoever can bring me up there, I want to fight.
Just on the rest of the heavyweight division, it was rather a very messy couple of weeks looking at what could have unfolded with AJ have been potentially stepped aside for a Fury Usyk undisputed fight, and Dillian would have done so as well. But last week we saw the biggest purse bids in boxing history take place, where Frank Warren and Bob Arum combined were able to win the Fury-Whyte fight. I just wanted to get your take though on the last couple of weeks at the top of the heavyweight division. What's been your thoughts from looking from the outside inwards as to how it's all unfolded?
Yeah, it sounded almost like Joshua was going to step aside, and some people would say he had agreed to that. But then in the end, the purse bids came through, and seems like they're going to put that fight on. At least that's what they're saying now. We haven't really heard from Whyte, so we'll see about that. But I mean, honestly, if I was in Joshua's shoes and I had lost to Usyk like he did, and he's might change trainers, that's what he's talking about. So if I was in his shoes, I would have stepped aside, especially for 50 million. It wouldn't have been a hard decision. And just to get some time with his new trainer and get ready. And hopefully, I think that he can gain some confidence. Maybe somehow I think that he lost his confidence along the way, and if he can get that back, he can do better, I think.
If there are no other obstacles, and I think most would imagine now Fury-Whyte takes place, and then Fury-Whyte takes place and AJ Usyk takes place once again, what are your thoughts heading into a rematch between Usyk and AJ, given what you just said about potential trainer change? He needs to get some confidence back. Ultimately, would you expect it just to be an even more of a comfortable performance from Alexander Usyk?
I think it all depends on Joshua, to be honest. I honestly think that if he's really there, that he could beat him, but he has to change some things. And I think confidence is really going to be a big factor. Because if you look at Joshua's fight with Whyte and Brazil and those guys, even though they are different than Usyk, I felt like he fought with much more confidence. He was using his power and his size. And I think that's what he needs to do in that fight with Usyk. So I have no idea what's going on with him and Rob McCracken and them, but maybe that could be a reason why he lost some confidence, because he doesn't really believe in the training. Like I said, I have no idea. But so hopefully a trainer change could help him some to gain that confidence back, because he will need it for sure.
You've spent time in camp with AJ, you've shared rounds with him in sparring. When you look at him now, especially over his last few fights, you mentioned the word confidence. When you saw what you went up against in sparring, was it anything different to what we've seen, and especially in that Usyk fight?
I mean, just looking at his fights, I think that he's lacking a little confidence somehow. And maybe it happened with Ruiz in that first fight when he lost. I think since then he hasn't looked that confidence. He was down with Klitschko also. That might have taken some from him. And I think that he has a lot of pressure on himself. From media, from everybody. He's making a lot of money. I'm sure there's some people that's depending on him. So he probably, he doesn't want to lose, and he's probably scared of losing. And sometimes you got to let go of that fear and just focus more on winning than just, I don't want to take risks here because I might get knocked out and I might lose. So if you're too careful, sometimes it works the other way.
Also, one other name I forgot to put to you, I just want to put to you now, is Filip Hrgović. I know you're not currently in those IBF rankings, but when you see what's going on there, fighters continuously turning down the opportunity to face him, I know you wouldn't be able to be made as a final eliminator, but would you ever entertain a fight with Mr. Hrgović?
I think he's good, but we haven't really seen how good he is. I think that he needs to fight a good name or a few good names to really see how good he is. I mean, of course I would entertain it, but honestly, they would have to pay me because, he is a good fighter and he comes with some risk, so it should be a big reward.
Just following on such on, obviously you're on this undercard this weekend. Chris Eubank Jr, Liam Williams. It's a great fight for the fans, those in Britain especially. Just want to get your thoughts for now. We're only a few days away. Just get your take on it.
Well, it's hard for me because I don't want to let people down by saying that I don't really know them. But I know Eubank. I've been watching him more. I don't know that I ever watched Williams, to be honest. So, maybe flip a coin one.
That's fair enough, Otto. But listen, I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening. I appreciate you speaking to me once again. Good luck on Saturday, and thank you for speaking to me in Boxing Social.
Thank you for having me.